This is the first pickup truck in Jeep's history, a vehicle that was born literally thanks to a Ford executive who left his job. A vehicle so important that it paved the road for Jeep to become one of the most iconic names in US car culture. This is the Willys pickup. To most people, it's just old metal. To me, it's a time capsule on wheels. I am dusting off the blueprints, uncovering the secrets, and waking up the engines that shaped generations. Welcome to the ultimate garage of the past. Buckle up and let's dive into the vehicles of yesteryear. This is the Motor Archive. Right after World War II, Willys began selling the Willys CJ2A, a Jeep mainly featured as a farm tractor and work vehicle. This is the starting point of our story, whose main character is a visionary man with an idea. Meet Charles Sorenson. He was basically Henry Ford's right-hand man since the early days of the company and became one of its top executives, specializing in vehicle production. Sorenson, who was also a skillful blacksmith, was responsible for overseeing the assembly of most of the weaponry built by the Ford Motor Company during World War II. This included, of course, the Ford GPW, the famous Willys Jeep. Things changed for Sorenson in May 1943 with the death of his close friend Edsel Ford, who was also Ford Motor Company's CEO. With Edsel's passing, Henry Ford assumed control of his company once again. However, Sorenson had strong doubts about Henry's mental sharpness and disagreed with several of his decisions. Although deeply loyal to the Ford's family, Sorenson decided to quit after 40 years with Ford in order to avoid further conflicts. Sometime later, a Willys Overland executive named Ward Kennedy offered Sorenson a job as company's president, an offer that came with a lower salary but included a Willys Jeep as a gift. Sorenson didn't take the job out of necessity, but because he saw the massive potential of the Willys Jeep in the post-war world. He saw the Jeep's potential as a farm tractor. After all, he had an extensive experience in the field, having been a key figure in founding the Sorenson tractor division of the Ford Motor Company back in 1916. With his vision in mind, he accepted the offer and pitched the plan to the board at Willys Overland. Although his agricultural proposal was accepted, the Willys Overland board also wanted a post-war passenger car. But with his vast industry experience, Sorenson knew that the company lacked the financial muscle to compete with Detroit's Big Three, or even to survive in the segment. Sorenson's answer to the board was a complete utility vehicle lineup, a niche that, while on Detroit's radar, wasn't fully dominated by them. In Sorenson's plan, the Willys Jeep would be both the engineering foundation for these new vehicles and the profit driver that would finance the project. The project was led by two brilliant minds, Delmar Barney Roos, creator of the famous four-cylinder Willys Go Devil engine, and Clyde Patton, chief body engineer. In essence, the team lengthened the Jeep chassis, added a flat cargo bed, designed the front end and interior using the CJ2A cab as a starting point, and laid out the entire assembly line. The project took little over a year, and on February 8, 1947, Willys Overland unveiled its new vehicle at the Chicago Auto Show as the Willys truck. It was pitched as a bigger brother to the Willys Jeep, a true line expansion. Initially, they were sold as the Willys 2T for the two-wheel drive version and 4T for the four-wheel drive version, featuring a 1-ton payload capacity, and by 1949, a 3/4 ton version was introduced. Built on the Willys CJ2A platform, they initially shared the 2.2 liters four-cylinder Go Devil engine. By 1950, engine options expanded to the 2.2 liters four-cylinder Hurricane engine, the same engine used in the high-hood CJ3B. By 1954, Willys introduced its first six-cylinder engine, a 3.7 liters Continental engine. Then, in 1962, came the famous six-cylinder Tornado engine, notable for being America's first mass-produced overhead cam engine after World War II. All these trucks came equipped with the same 3-speed BorgWarner T90 manual transmission with synchronized second and third gears. Early models featured a Dana 53 rear axle and an optional Timken transfer case, though Willys eventually standardized on the classic Dana 18 transfer case. In terms of styling, the pickup underwent a subtle evolution over time. In 1954, legendary designer Brooks Stevens took charge, reshaping the truck under his new look philosophy. This update gave the cab wider visibility and introduced the V-shaped front grille, earning these trucks the nickname V-nose truck. Interestingly, Willys heavily promoted safety in its advertising, highlighting not just versatility and maneuverability, but also design. Willys claimed that its flat fender design helped reduce the severity of crashes or prevent them altogether. They even cited a survey of 162 Willys truck owners. 36 had been involved in car accidents, 12 of them suffered zero damage, and the most expensive repair among the damaged vehicles was just $746. Willys offered incredible versatility with an extensive option list, including power takeoff or PTO units with pulley attachments, or the dump-o-matic, a hydraulic piston system that raised the cargo bed like a miniature dump truck, an option that the featured truck in our video today actually has and still works, by the way. Buyers could also choose from multiple body options: the standard pickup truck, the stake bed, the ambulance, the tow truck, and even a civilian personal carrier. Sorenson's utility line was so successful that it became a major export product for Willys Overland, both built in the US for export and assembled abroad, long outliving its American production run, by the way. They were hugely successful in South America. Assembly began in Argentina, for example, in 1960 under the ICA brand, Industrias Kaiser Argentina, a joint venture between Kaiser Motors and the Argentine government, where the truck was known as the ICA Estanciera Baquiano and was produced until 1963, with also a version that was mounted on the Kaiser Manhattan's chassis, a car that was also assembled in Argentina and was named Ica Carabela. In Venezuela, the first imported utility truck arrived in 1947, with local assembly starting in 1963. In fact, American businessman Nelson Rockefeller, who owned a estate in Venezuela called Monte Sacro, had a heavily modified Willys pickup custom built for his farm. Perhaps the most interesting South America story happened in Brazil. They started assembly there in 1961 using the US design. But in 1959, the truck received a restyle tailored specifically for the Brazilian market. In 1967, Ford acquired Willys do Brasil, which was basically Willys' operation in the country, and production continued under the Ford brand. Thus, the Willys truck was renamed Ford F-75, remaining in production until 1981. Back in the US, production ended in 1965 with roughly 200,000 units built. If we factor Argentine, Brazilian, and Venezuela production, total numbers could easily reach 400 or 500,000 units worldwide. While that might sound like a solid number, it's relatively low compared to mainstream trucks. Combine that with the fact that these vehicles were heavily used and abused as hard workhorses, and it's clear why they are so rare today. Very few people thought of preserve or restoring them, and I wouldn't be surprised if some are still at hard work today. Seeing one in this condition is a true rarity, a head turner enjoyed by driver and spectators alike. Ultimately, the Willys utility line was essential to the survival of Willys Overland, the Willys Jeep, and the entire Jeep brand after World War II. Its low production costs and high profit margins generated the capital Jeep needed to endure and become the legendary icon it is today. Many of us owe a debt of thanks to Charles Sorenson. First, Jeep enthusiasts, because without Sorenson's vision of the Jeep as a farm and work vehicle, post-war production might never happen. as Ford saw no reason to build civilian jeeps after the war. And second, me, because without Charles Sorenson's vision for this utility lineup, I wouldn't be here telling you this story today. Thank you for watching, and remember, if you like this video, please feel free to comment. It would also be wonderful if you could please subscribe to the channel and share it with all your petrolhead friends, so that way we can keep diving into the vehicles of yesteryear.